The cost of spending your life. Have you thought of how you are spending your life and what it is costing you? When we spend money, we know the cost of what we are purchasing and the values we receive. Do we value our time on earth that God has given us when we are living from day to day? What could you spend your life on that would bring the most value? This is really something to think about. You are spending your life every day. Paul spending his life for God. Philippians 3 verse 14, I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Sometimes we spend our life on our own heartfelt devotion to what we think God desires. Saul, a dear, precious servant of God, was dedicated to serving God, and he was convinced that Jesus was a fake and anyone promoting Jesus should be stoned. He spent the first part of his life killing Christians, mistakenly thinking he was doing the will of God. But after Saul had an experience with Jesus on the road to Damascus, he put behind his mistakes, forgetting the past, and spent the rest of his life pressing towards the mark of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Philippians 3 verse 14. In both cases, Paul was dedicated to spending his life for God, one by mistake, the other with God's help. Spending your life with God. It is clear that Paul met Jesus on the road to Damascus, since he had a radical change from killing Christians to converting people to Christianity. We can easily see that many of the Jews did not believe in what Paul told them and eventually put him to death. Saul's life stopped and started again at the coming of Jesus into his life. Even his name changed from Saul to Paul. At the coming of Jesus, the calendar we use had a significant change, with everything before Jesus being BC and afterwards AD. It would seem like an impossible thing for God to be able to stop and restart the calendar. Since the Jews did not believe in Jesus, and the majority of Christian conversions were non-Jews, even though Jesus was a Jew. But for what seems impossible to man is always possible with God, who did stop and start time again at the coming of his beloved Son with the calendar of BC and AD. Beloved, make no mistake. Jesus is the most important person to have on the epitaph of your life's calendar of memories. Just like Jesus did with Paul, Jesus can stop and start time in your life and make everything anew. It is always best spending your life finding out about God's grace and unmerited favor. God sent his Son Jesus Christ so that you may spend your life with him.